everybody. Welcome to Midnight at the Crossroads Radio Show. I'm David Humphrey. We have Jake Bell in the house with us and Sean Sellers, and we have a special guest, Christy, in the house tonight. Thank you for listening, and thank you for coming back. We had to take a week off. Had a little personal issues come up, and we had to take a week off, but we're back. Yes, we did get a bunch of questions that could come in last week, and I wanted to make sure we get them answered. And I also want to say thank you for everybody that's listening, pushing our YouTube channel, and being on our Facebook page. I do appreciate it. And also, if any of our listeners, if you have a personal question or something that you're dealing with, you can always inbox us at any time, and we'll get to your questions.
Welcome to David Humphrey's Love Line.
You know what? It is good to see Hump ready to go. I mean, he is fired up, and that's a good thing to be, man. That's really good. Was it the food tonight, Hump?
Yes.
Was that
you know what?
I think he knows he's going to have to carry the show.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'd like to send a big shout out. If you're in the Millbrook, Alabama area, go to the Front Porch Grill. Front Porch Grill, they also have a Facebook page. 106 Deaksville Highway, Millbrook, Alabama. They have the best home cooking food and grilling that you can eat. I mean, it's fantastic. From a hamburger to a steak to breakfast, it's fantastic. Check them out.
When do I get a cut of that ad revenue money there?
You know what? I'm so pumped up just for eating there every Thursday night. I do not mind letting everybody know. Matter of fact, I'd like to see us have a meet and greet there before we do a show one Thursday night.
Well, let's do it.
Oh, my God.
It's a party. We'll fill it up.
We can get right in that back room, right, David?
That's right. They have a banquet room. Hey, you know what? I'd like to see us, we've talked about it for a month. I'd like to see us do a live show there.
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody you're coming. We'll just...
the management loves us to be there.
I can tell.
Just sneak on out over there. You'll go missing.
You speaking about the meet and greets and all that.
Yeah.
We had that conversation come up before we ever got out tonight about the people that would follow our show and come see us speak and all that. And if you really think about it, it is kind of amazing how many people listen to us. In the past.
Have listened to us.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, are listening to us.
And we appreciate it very much.
I consider it a lot of views. I mean,
but think about over the years how long we've been doing this, and just now getting back. We appreciate everybody coming back, listening to the show, getting us back in the swing of things. I guess.
And I think our guest here can attest that no one should ever listen to us. Really.
No. We're really difficult people to be around. Also.
Very difficult. I can attest. Yeah.
I guess our guests, we've all pretty much voted that after tonight, seeing us all three eat and spending some time with us. She'll probably say, I'll never see you again. It's over.
No, not really. I mean, here's the thing, though, Sean. Really, she shouldn't, because what I preach all the time with these relationships and these marriages, do not bring your representative with you. Be yourself. We talked about this a month ago.
That's David Humphrey's Love Line.
But we keep getting into the always on the show about the relationship stuff and
the walls.
Everything else. It's just where we've been going. And my relationships and me dating again has been a hot topic of the show over the past. Since we've been back started.
I guess as much as we'll let you talk about it, yeah.
Oh, let me. We actually have somebody said that you kept bringing it up one time. We couldn't let it go.
Here's the thing.
No,
but you know what? Here's the thing. Before we get off topic, the thing is about relationships is bringing your representative. There's a lot of couples that start out that it's almost fake because they bring their representative and they have to eat a certain way, they have to order a certain way, and that's not really you. So if you're real, you might as well be up front, show all your cards up front, because long term, 5, 6, 7 years down the road, you're going to change and then you're going to be miserable. I just hate that couples start out and that don't want to be themselves. But, that's a whole different story.
That's the truth, though. Even Melanie brought that up, and we talked about it. And that's one thing with me that I really hadn't brought my representative. I've been me the entire time. This might not be a good thing, but I've been just me.
Here's one I'm going to throw at. It don't have anything to do with any of us, but I see it a lot. The guy will start dating a girl and think he's way more popular, has more money than he really does, and he tries to do that, and after a few months, karma and it backfire hits him, and it's over with. It's over. I mean, Sean, I've seen it, you've seen it. somebody trying to be bigger than they are is so fake, and you shouldn't be like that.
Well, I appreciate anybody that goes out with me, because pretty much how I kick it off now is letting everybody know, I'm just recently divorced. I'm living at home with my mama. I ain't got a pot to piss in. So, you're talking about starting from scratch. That's pretty much where you at. You got to do that. You got to.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that because you're honest. And if a female wants a good guy, honesty's the best policy off the bat. Why would you want to be something that you're really not? Be honest, because the relationship will go a lot further down the road of being honest. And you know what? Men, women, we all want honesty now. And people are going, damn, this sounds like a relationship show. It's not a paranormal show. Well, here's where we're going to tie the paranormal into it.
Oh, get down.
There's a lot.
Succubi.
There's a lot of people. No, I can actually get into that too.
I'm sure you can get
I want to go back into it.
Yeah.
I want to go back to where we're going. Check this out, Jay.
I am trying.
All right, go ahead.
Couples are all looking for answers. They're looking for supernatural, paranormal answers. Everything. This is what I believe. I believe if you're both in a good place, that energy feeds off everything. So if you're in a good place together, that energy is going to keep going. If you have negativity or stuff on you, or you're just battling with depression and stuff, it can hinder the relationship to me a little bit. That goes back to being honest and upfront and working together as a team, because there's a lot of people out there looking and they're wanting answers, and a lot of people are starting to see that, have we been lied to all these years? Is everything that we see now really not real? Of course, they talked about the moon. They talked about the moon's not real. They've talked about the earth is flat and all this crap and stuff that you read. That's a lot of it's fake news. It ties with people our age and younger looking for answers. So, where else do you want to go with that, Jay?
I absolutely agree about the flow of energy with couples and everything else. I think a lot of times that's not taken into account. Even seeing people that's been together a while, when one is not going through it and they're not connected together, it does cause a rift in their flow and them getting in the right direction. And it's imperative for your friends and everybody you're surrounded with is to be on the same page. The only way you can do that is with honesty, and honesty is the key. You do have to have a flow of honesty and respect to anything you do. I think in this day and age in the world is that you're not going to make everybody happy. You're going to have people dislike you, but it's imperative to always be yourself and treat people the way you want to be treated, and show respect and demand respect back. And if somebody deserves a bitch slap, you have to give them a bitch slap. Sometimes I think it's more nowadays, not with men and everybody else, because people bully you. They run you over. There's not honesty, and you got to start standing on the ground. And I think when you come to that flow of energy, to stand the ground, be who you are, it's imperative, because people nowadays are so defeated and so depressed or so down and out. They just don't. A lot of them don't have that fight about themselves that you got to have to succeed in life and to take all the bad that comes. And it's easy too that people forget about that. If you go back to history, and they would used to send basically the foot soldiers, and they'd just send wave and wave and wave until after you started basically run out of ammunition, and everybody else would come in. Basically, in my opinion, what's happening is the devil is attacking people so much is that he keep beating you down, but that wave's almost over. And if you can stand it and fight hard, it's going to get better for you. But the imperative now is a lot of people is not standing up fighting back with whatever's in front of them.
And as far as self goes, don't be afraid that that's going to be fluid. You're going to change. And you're going to change constantly. As far as what Sean's talking about with
that's growth.
A spiritual attack, but a lot of people have a lot of problems identifying who they are. And they think that if they're this thing, then they have to be this thing always. You don't. It's just part of growth, right?
But what you're saying about growing. But to me, everybody knows I have a hard time about getting old. I'm terrified of getting old. But I know in my heart and mind that no matter what, as long as you're growing as an individual, whether it's spiritually, physically, mentally, you're fine. But as soon as you stop growing in any aspect of your life, you're dying. And you've got to be growing, and you've got to be constantly changing and evolving as a person. mentally and spiritually, and trying to reach that higher self.
I want to segue into the conversation that we're having into something that is very, very, very unexplainable, such as trauma and the paranormal. It's funny, there's been so many cases the past, I'd say 15 to 20 years, about people having traumatic things in their life happen to them and all of a sudden having paranormal encounters. You can have brain injuries, wrecks, concussions, you can have loved ones dying, that you go into a traumatic shock, and then all of a sudden you start having paranormal experiences. A lot of people don't want to talk about them. Some people do. Some people's called us before with stuff like that. And it's, I think people that have PTSD are starting to ask a lot more questions, because whatever goes on with them, it seems like paranormal and unexplainable things happen to them.
That was actually a symptom of PTSD when I was in high school in the year 2000.
And
so
it's a real condition. Yeah. It is not an imagined condition. It's a psychiatric injury. But I think it's very neat. And in most of them, and I read a study, they did 150 study subjects where almost 90% of them had UFO experiences and some type of encounter they thought that was extraterrestrial, or seeing an I guess they really don't know, because then they started asking questions. But we worked that case in Montgomery a long time ago, Sean, about the Maxwell Air Force case.
Yeah.
That, that to me, that kind of
that's one of
it's traumatic.
That Montgomery case that you're talking about, we worked in that's actually one of the top UFO sightings at that time period. I mean, it was before we worked it, but it was people that actually experienced it when it happened, that we worked.
And what's so funny too is most of these people have not ever had any paranormal experiences before. They have the trauma, and then they start into denial. So they'll deny. That makes them sick, in a way. When you start denying everything, then you start thinking, well, am I crazy? Then that starts with depression. But I just think that was pretty neat, that kind of goes with each other.
But the whole thing with depression and all that, it goes hand in hand. It's part of the being oppressed with a lot of the attacks and what's ever happening to you as well. But you got a butt ton of questions. Let's go ahead.
Let's go ahead and try to get some of these questions in tonight. All right. The first one is something that we have talked about and touched base the past few years, is the flat earth movement, of people believing that our earth is flat.
All right. I'll tell you, I really personally don't know much about it, and I really hadn't read much about it when I knew it was a question, but when it first came up really with me was a couple of weeks ago riding home, and my 10-year-old asked me what I thought about it, and he's big into it. I think it's one of the many movements that's going around, just like you have the Hollow Earth at different time periods and things like that, but I can't really get a good grasp on it. I mean, Jake or Hump, y'all got something to add?
Well, I want to add this. There's a group of Coloradans in Colorado that they have like a society that it's the Flat Earth Society. They meet, once a month like any other group, and this guy who goes by the YouTuber Tiger Dan 925, he's up to 26,000 followers. You can go on there and see all his videos and stuff. They claim that the Earth is flat. It goes back to, let's see here. I had some notes on it because I actually did a little bit of reading.
So it's saying the Earth is flat.
Yes.
Correct.
So
no curvature to the Earth.
No curvature.
Whatsoever.
Completely flat.
So our planet's like a box.
Yes.
No.
Well,
what is it saying?
No,
it's like a straight.
Like a table.
Like this. Look, this is a map, a 1892 New Standard Map of the Earth that is all squared out.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's funny to talk about it. I did watch the video and I go, oh, maybe, but conspiracy theorists say that it's been a psychological experiment for years to see what humans believe. That this all started a while back. They come out, well, the Earth is flat, and it's all really a big psychological experiment.
What does it really matter?
I don't know. Maybe.
What does it affect?
Humans, about how humans believe, their belief patterns. That one person says something, and then 100 people, then 1,000, then 1,000,000, and that they believe in it. I mean,
it's
like lemmings.
Yes, that it's all been a big, it's a big forest.
I don't know. I tell you something I thought was really interesting. It has nothing to do with flat Earth, but it's kind of connected to. I guess it could be connected to it. Did you see where they're saying the people that are doing the DNA stuff, or that has Cherokee blood, that are Cherokees, are actually coming up with Middle Eastern blood? They're Middle Eastern.
I could see that.
And you start dealing with the similar when you start dealing with all the continents was once connected. And you're dealing with the 13 extinction events and different things with the Earth and how it once was and the connection of things.
Well, supposedly the cradle of humanity was between the Tiger and Euphrates rivers, which is in the Middle East. So if you have someone migrating through Asia to the land bridge onto this continent, I mean, you could easily see that. Tracing it back far enough.
But how do the flat Earth has anything to do with any of that? Or does it?
It doesn't.
So I don't
really has a lot of trouble explaining really, really simple questions. Like, if the Earth is flat, and this is a big conspiracy to keep people thinking that it's flat, then, imagine the amount of people that you'd have to keep in the dark. And imagine the amount of people that would have to keep that secret.
I think, to me, one of the most interesting things...
Occam's razor, man. Yeah.
Want something right now that's not back off the flat Earth, but kind of still on that same scenario, is that we used to do prediction shows once a year about things, and as many we've got an eclipse coming in August.
Yeah, we do.
And so just be mindful, everybody, looking out for any earthquakes or anything substantial like that. And it's not a psychic prediction; it's a simple prediction with the eclipse and how everything's messed up, and I think that's something to take a look at any volcano activity or any earthquakes happening in the near future.
I'm gonna be out front.
Yeah.
Watching it. It'll work.
Oh, yeah. That should be interesting.
I think it's on like a Tuesday or something, isn't it?
I remember we had one when I was at Seth Johnson. You remember that hump?
Yes. I think we was in 6th grade.
It was really creepy.
It was, because they brought us all outside.
No, remember we couldn't go outside because we was inside, wasn't we? I don't remember. I just remember it getting really dark, and I remember how everybody was really quiet.
Anyway, flat Earth is complete horseshit.
Awesome. Next question.
All right, roll with it.
Nephilim giants.
Whew. That can go so many different places, and I'll tell you my theory, and maybe not theory, what I believe, and maybe what I know, and it might not be fact, but it's basically where they're saying that alien entities basically mated with people or fallen angels mated with people, and Nephilims come in. Correct? Is that pretty much what it is, Jake?
Well, if you go into, it depends on if you want to go biblical. If you want to go biblical, it's fallen angels. It's kind of the Book of Enoch stuff. Fallen angels mated with, mankind. They got into them earth women's pants, that sort of thing. And they made babies, and then babies were huge. And were giants. And that was the reason for the first flood, is to cleanse the earth of that.
But it didn't cleanse. And
not completely. Some tribes.
And I believe in it. I do believe in that. There's something to it, just due to the fact if you get even back in the 1500s when the DeSoto came through, talking about the Native American when Chief Tuscaloosa was over 7 foot tall, and you got them with a Native American would go howl. A lot of them would have 6 fingers and 6 toes, and there's been numerous giants found all over the United States, and a lot of them's at the Smithsonian that they don't report.
Yeah, don't talk about. They always disappeared to the Smithsonian.
Yes, exactly. So I think there's definitely something to it. And, one of the creepy things to me, and Jake actually brought it up, told me about it, and I started listening to some interviews, is the giants are turning up now in Afghanistan.
Yeah, where they're being ordered to actually go kill them.
Yep. And they're hiding in the different
The
mountains.
soldiers are.
And there's a guy I've heard an interview that was in the Special Forces that was on Coast to Coast that was really interesting. And there's a drawing of what they actually look like.
Yeah.
So it really makes you wonder a lot about it. But I think there's definitely something to it. It's too many things in history that's been covered up and hid that's come out over the years. And you start dealing with the Native American mounds and different things. There's something to it.
And the Nephilim and giants can kind of branch off, and where you have your Nephilim and that's one thing, and then there's giants and that's another thing. So,
when you start dealing with David and Goliath.
yeah.
Goliath to me doesn't fit the points of the Nephilims.
No, he's more of a giant.
Yeah, because it's due to the fact, he really wasn't that.
He's of that tribe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that were giants basically.
Because people forget about. When you hear about the giant, you think about. To me, in my mind, you would think he's athletic and he's dangerous. He's big, strong, powerful. But there's something to it when he had to be led down there by the hand. And that makes you wonder about his. You start dealing with his eyesight. The disease now. The people that has the giant disease, they lose their eyesight's coming to lose, and it makes you wonder if a lot of that kind of ties into it, and as that gene pool of that breed starts to kind of be polluted down.
Yeah, and you have the tribes that have kept it somewhat pure. Like if you kind of Google giant in Afghanistan, whatever, you'll bring up a YouTube video of this guy, and if you ever looked at someone with gigantism, they have a particular look to them, and this guy doesn't have that. He just looks like a normal dude. He's just giant.
Definitely YouTube all that and start looking into it.
Yep.
It's interesting. What's our next question?
All right, guys. We'll set the question up, and I'll give you a little bit of history with it.
All right, roll.
Negative energy are things attaching themselves to a developmentally disabled person. Okay, here's some backstory on it. His body's fine, the brain is damaged, and the IQ is low, no short-term memory, has trouble voicing his feelings, wants or needs, and I believe that is the Williams syndrome. And the part of the question is, how can you tell he's being attacked or has an attachment if you have a young person that has those problems?
The easiest way to tell is to trust your senses. I think you can tell when there's something else to it. As we've talked about a lot of times before in the show, think something and see if you can get a reaction from them. See, can they start to read your mind telepathically? I don't want to get deep into it tonight, but I know numerous shows in the past, myself and Jake's told stories and instances where you're dealing with kids that had some brain damage such as that, and they was actually demonically influenced, and they actually was able to climb the walls and even get up on the ceiling. And there's been numerous stories and stuff that's been passed down and first-hand accounts of that, of having those special abilities and in a sinister way, I guess the best way to describe it. And I think anybody that's open to these things, that they're easily influenced at a certain point.
Well, Sean, what about this? If you have any gifts or you're very intuitive and you've been doing this a long time, it actually goes back to your gut feeling that you do know. You do know if something's off with somebody. Not only because they're mentally challenged, but as far as a spirit attack. Could you say that, Jake? Like, like us three would know just by talking to them or seeing them. Can y'all agree with that, or do y'all? Because I think I can, just by looking at their eyes, some body movements. You really don't have to say nothing. And then your feeling, the energy in the room or around them should be off. Things should be off balance.
I think that.
And where I'm going with this too, Sean. All right, so you go into the room as us being us, very positive. Our energy centered. We're there, right?
Yeah.
There's a negative energy or attachment on a person. We should be able to automatically sense or feel that energy on the person.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jake Bell? No, you don't think so? You think it's just? I mean, it's just hidden. It's just on the person. I mean, what's your thoughts on it?
I think it's more complicated than just like, I think we have a particular set of skills where we can see it, whereas some people can't. So I wouldn't automatically say, hey, you can absolutely tell. But, I mean, there's going to be signs, obviously, to anybody that's looking. You just have to look for them. It sounds simple, but a lot of times, your senses will be camouflaged. You won't be able to see the forest for the trees. So just the mental act of forcing yourself to look for them will help.
Okay. Once we find them, Sean.
Got problems with it?
How?
That good?
What do you think about it? Sean, you want to say something?
No, I was going to say something. Go ahead. No, you finish. No, where I'm going to go.
What I was going to say is, then how do you fix it? What do you do to help that person? Because you got to remember, he's not going to tell you because he can't.
All right.
Do you cleanse them without even knowing it? Do you, how do you try to fix that problem and help that family?
When we started back doing the show again, I promised I was going to be honest, in my opinion, how to answer this stuff. And not always put everything candy and nuts. And the way my grandmother would describe it would basically be, for a kid like that, with an illness, and being attacked, something dark, where he's influenced and he's evil, that kid has been promised by somebody in their family. So that means somebody in their family has opened up that door for that to happen, and basically that kid was invited, whether it was done ritually or whether it was done like unknowingly. That kid has been promised up.
So is it a sacrifice?
And you can't help that kid. You can only subdue the energy that kid is being used.
Are you saying almost like a generational sacrifice?
I'm basically saying that
It's
kid.
a promise. It's been promised.
It's promised that you can't fix it.
It's not a sacrifice because it's not a direct. It's not a direct kill.
So this kid, let's say there's a kid, right?
Uh-huh.
And I'm just using in general. Let's say there's a kid just like that, and the family, a good family's taking care of him, right? He can be raised and raised in a great home, loving home, right?
Yeah.
But they're still going to be weary of him, and there's going to be times when the forces are right, whether it's moon phases, storms, arguing in the house, or some temptation within that family, that he's going to be fed off of it, some type of oppression, and he could become dangerous.
Well,
He could become dangerous.
Well, let me ask you something. Do you think whoever had got him to that place or has done that, they basically did it for either power or personal gain?
They could have done it being on drugs. They could have done anything without doing it unknowingly.
Yep.
In my theory, I believe that.
What?
Let's say this. Let's say I'm a lady and I'm pregnant and I do drugs.
All right.
And I do stuff unknowingly. And I was involved around a lot of people. It don't have to be like I'm doing rituals.
Uh-huh.
And that baby comes out and that child's sick. And it's and let's say it has certain mental difficulties, right? There's something about that kid. Sometimes people will tell you that something's off with that kid. He's just, I'm scared of him. There's something weary of him. And a lot of times, sometimes those kids are basically almost like they're promised up and their soul's really not there. That's if that makes any sense.
It does, because we've talked about this numerous times. We can see somebody out and about, and you look at them in their eyes, and their souls are gone. They're completely gone. They're here, but they're gone.
And this is a touchy thing to say that, but I mean, disclaimer, it's just my opinion. Like, my opinion has changed over the years on things. And it could change on this, but this is what I believe.
Well, it's extremely hard to give it a vague answer on that because it depends so much on a case-by-case basis.
Correct.
It does.
And that is true.
So.
But it also goes back to something that we've talked about and also investigated about these satanic super soldier cults.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, do you think, not saying that this is a case like that, but I guess I could see where these cults and these groups.
Okay, it's different.
Let's go that route.
Well, it's different because if you're going to go specifically into satanic super soldier, that means a specific kind of thing. So the way those are made is by basically repeatedly subjecting that victim to trauma. Enough so that it breaks into different identities. That's the theory anyway.
That goes back to what we just talked about a while ago with the trauma.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they start believing it.
But
it's specific ritualized trauma.
But if you get back to start dealing with to answer that question, let me get back to where we was at on that with regard to satanic super soldiers and everything else. If you start dealing with, let's say, there's a ritual done and we're promised this baby, right?
Yeah.
That baby can be perfectly fine and have basically not the same issues that Hump's talking about.
Yeah.
But if there is some type of let's say drug abuse, some type of abuse, and then you are some type of satanic stuff or anything like that, and that baby's born with the illness, mentally or whatever, sometimes they can be born, as my grandma would say, hollow. And when they're hollow, that hollowness can be filled at any point. And sometimes, and I'm just going back speaking on one specific case, where sometimes that hollowness can get filled with something really powerful and strong, and you can get rid of that. But he's hollow, so it's going to constantly be filled. Does that answer that question, huh? I think that's the best way to answer that direct question for that one.
Correct.
Sure.
I think, yeah. But it also goes back to case by case.
It's case by case.
Issue, yeah.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
That was a good, difficult question.
Yeah. So, everybody listening, we do appreciate you sending us the questions. You can send us more, just inbox us, and we will get to them. Hopefully, we'll get to them within the week when you send them in. Like I said, we had some stuff come up last Thursday. Wasn't able to do the show, and we're back on track now. Yeah, and I do appreciate once again everybody listening, pushing the YouTube, pushing the Facebook. I appreciate it. We did get a lot of new friends this week. We've had a lot of people go to our YouTube channel, check out some of the older shows. Jake's going to load up a couple of older shows too, hopefully this week, that we did a few years ago that are fantastic shows.
Rest is our satanic
Yes.
super soldier.
Yes, that fits
That's
what we're talking
fitting
about.
to what we talked about.
I know, it's
And it was a
nice.
great story. And also, we had some.
Yeah.
We've had some experience with that as far as investigating. We went to a different county, kind of close by, and checked some things out. That was kind of crossed that subject.
Well, that subject's come up several times with us.
Yeah.
Something else that somebody wanted us to do a show on as well was the Atlanta child murders.
Oh yeah.
And we
That's yo baby.
we've touched on it, but we could definitely do that as well at some point.
Yeah, that was a pretty crazy case.
Yes, it can go a lot of different
I'd
ways.
love to go over to Atlanta for the weekend and maybe take all our gear, investigate some stuff, and probably do the Atlanta child murder radio show in the room.
That would be fun. I think the main gear would. Hump's talking about radio gear.
At the Drury Inn.
Our stuff.
Our radio stuff would be fun. The big thing is we
Yes.
go that is that I know everybody like boo-hoos this, but I like the varsity.
Oh,
I know.
David,
come on.
I do
your
like
mic
it. I know
cord,
there's
'cause I
tons
think
of
it's
better
out
places
again.
to eat, but I do want to go there.
Your mic cord where it connects to the mic, man. You're good.
Okay.
We are just bubble gum and spit.
I'm
holding
bubblegumming
everything together.
tonight.
It's all right. We all are.
It don't make it. What else we got, Hump?
Speaking
Any
of
other
hollow
questions?
down.
No, that was it. We had those 3 questions, and we answered them for everybody. And
I got a question.
yes,
What's up with you and Rob Lowe?
man, fuck Rob Lowe.
Why?
There we
Fuck
go
his-
again.
Fuck
there
his
we go again.
Bigfoots.
I was looking up his
Hey,
show, and I kind of want to see his show.
I looked at the preview
called
of his
Sean
show,
at
and I
night.
liked it too.
Oh,
I
my
think I want
God.
to see his show.
Hey, what's so funny is that night I went off on it. I went home, looked it up, called Sean, and said, "Hey, man, you really gonna watch this?" Sean was like, "Yeah, it looks really interesting."
I think it
and
looks
I was
good.
like, "But it goes back to shit, Sean. Paranormal celebrities trying to make a dollar, such as Alice Cooper's new album, Paranormal."
It's getting ready for the Halloween for him.
Oh, come on! It's trying to sell a ticket.
Listen, you can't get mad at Alice Cooper for that. He's done that his whole career.
Oh God! Come out with an album.
Well,
That'd be like you getting mad at King Diamond.
You can't fuss about it. At the very beginning of the show, you was talking about a meet and greet.
You really were.
It's
There's
the same
nothing wrong
thing.
with it.
What's
But
up?
we're not charging to come hang out and ask questions. When I say meet and greet, I
It's
want
like
people,
it's like one
like-minded
prostitute
people.
getting mad at another prostitute for working her corner.
I want people to come and ask questions. like-minded, and we, feed
Ask
off each
questions,
other.
eat beef.
Maybe we can
Get
do some
full
more
of
libraries
beef.
again in the near future.
Yeah, we
because
can.
We've done that a lot in the past.
Jake, do we have enough time to go into one more thing?
It's a podcast. We
Go
can
ahead.
do whatever we want
Hey,
to do.
I was going to do this earlier. Have y'all seen the new UK show? It's a game show that's about succubus and incubuses live on TV.
No.
No.
I read it today
They do
and looked at it
crazy
and
stuff,
goes,
though.
"What the fuck?"
Well, how do they do that?
I don't know, but that is a popular thing. And what did you know? What's popular? Stars and athletes are coming out into mainstream media talking about that they've had relations with a supposedly ghost, and
nice.
that some of them. And here's the thing: you can Google search this. I'm not going to get into. I will say this: Bobby Brown was one of them. He just come out about it.
Does
And
Bobby
a
Brown even
basketball
know
player-
what he's
Yeah,
had?
no, Bobby
relations
Brown
with?
has a really
on.
good story
Yes,
about it.
Bobby Brown
Like, he's
has
got
a
really-
fantastic
he does.
story about it. Also,
It wasn't pleasurable.
no,
It's
okay.
to the real
No.
case of it. It's what they really are.
and also, there's a basketball player, and I think he plays for the Lakers. Now, he plays for the Lakers, and he's come out saying that he had an encounter that basically he had sex with a ghost or whatever you want to call it. And then there's a couple of star women
I gave her
actresses
$20
that come out.
and she disappeared.
Hold on. This one come out saying that she really wants to keep doing it. And to me, that's creepy as hell. And then I start thinking, is that mental health? Is it, what's wrong up here in the psyche that's not normal? And then the show in the UK that has it, and I'm like, holy crap, man.
Here's my thing that stands out there. There's two cases that we've had dealing with incubus and succubuses, and one was the first time I've ever seen a possession, and it's the first time that completely changed my whole view on spiritual warfare. Is that we had a case turned over to us, and the lady was actually Angola Sioux. Is that correct? She was Sioux, and it was and she was from North Dakota, and the pastor that we worked with actually spoke to her pastor, and we found out it was generational, and then Jake was always the main contact, and we went there, and we witnessed. It was like several different exorcisms with this lady, and during the original interview, she would talk about how at first it was pleasurable, the experience, and as she started inviting it in and more, it started getting violent, and then there was even videos of her where they filmed where her body would be distorted, and when I know it sounds horrible,
Hold on,
and
Sean.
the ejaculation felt like pins and needles, and she's had medical doctors, all the different reports, they had the whole thing, and when we did that during the exorcism, literally she was flat on her back and blinked, and she was on her foot up on 2 feet running. We seen during the time of that the animals running. She knew things that people was thinking, and that was one of those things that completely kind of changed my view on that. And then we had another case that we've worked dealing with incubus and succubus where a guy was raped by a ghost, and he ended up telling his about and I think people forget about a lot of this stuff, and there's different camps where you say it's a ghost or you say it could be, I guess, the shades or whatever from that, I guess, the fairy realm, or you start dealing with actually the demonic stuff, and I think they're all demonic, and a lot of time it's a way to kind of bring you in,
Also, for our listeners that are listening to the story, I want to go back to what Sean mentioned when he started the story. One, we have a pastor that was on our team. He was a pastor with the church.
Doctor.
He was a doctor. We also had a psychologist who is a doctorate in psychology. And we also had a RN nurse, emergency room nurse, who the two females watched the video. We never watched the video, and we never had anything to do with that. We let them do it, let them interview her when it come to that.
Whoever Hump's talking to, he never watched it. I was there.
We never
really
watched
didn't, because here's the thing.
He did burn a hole in her table.
Yeah, he did. He actually did catch her table on fire.
Her table on fire trying to cleanse her house.
He did.
And also, what Sean mentioned was, as this started and she was laying flat, when she blinked and jumped up from the bed to directly on her feet, she actually took off running.
Yeah.
Ran all the way down the hallway, and her eyes looked like 2 black quarters. Creepiest thing I ever seen. Animals going crazy. She had like a couple of rabbits and a couple of little other.
Her dog killed her cat.
Yeah, dog
Yeah,
all of a sudden turned and killed her cat. Lots of strange stuff. And also for people that have never heard of this or who's listening, it's funny that most the females, when they start having this happen, they really enjoy it. They get off, and there's been different cases and stuff to saying where they enjoyed it at first, they wanted it more and more because they reached a hyper orgasm and so powerful.
You were digging that one deeper.
No, I'm not digging. This is truth. These are facts. You can Google search this shit, and it's a goddamn demonic thing.
Just remember how that lady, how it was when we first went, and how it got better, and how it would go back and forth, and it's an ongoing battle. That's something that people don't realize. If you ever have something to her extent, it's a battle for the rest of your life.
It goes away.
You got to stay on it. But I had the question asked to me riding over here about have we ever seen anything? And I think we've seen so much.
Have you ever seen a hyper orgasm?
But no, but we blocked a lot of that out. A lot of the things we see.
You blocked them all out? Okay.
What the fuck are you talking about? you still talking about hyper orgasms?
Maybe.
God, dog, man.
Wow.
Speaking of a question Sean was asked on the way over here about what is a spirit guide?
Yeah.
He brought that up. That's an excellent question. The only thing I could really come up with is it's a spirit that guides you. And Hump kind of elaborated and said, it can be ancestors,
family.
someone you know, someone you don't know, something that's never necessarily been human.
Yeah. And I believe in their loved ones in your past. It's past. Some of you've known, some of you probably never known. I think you have different ones that you progress in your life. You have some at different stages. And I think it's important to get in touch with your guides. And the main way to do that through meditation, through prayer. And you'll be amazed at the people, what's the spiritual world that's around you at the time. And I think that comes up. I think a lot of people forget that. And even I've forgot it at times and been reminded about it.
Sean, do you think that's where basically the love bond continues? Can you have a love bond that's your spirit guide, that's generations of family that you've never met?
Yeah, absolutely. I think your soul remembers, and we'll go. I don't want to get into all this because people really slam us, but I believe in reincarnation, and I think we're at the end of this soul cycle where basically we're done cycling through, and that's why so many of us are back in these soul clusters, where we're really not family, but like you're not close with your family, but you're close with each other, and it's family.
Awesome. Well, guys, I think we're going to stop the show here. We may go back into this next week. Please listen to our show, push the show. We may touch on this next week, starting out reincarnation, soul clusters, love bonds. Check us out. I'm David Humphrey signing off.
I'm Sean Sellers.
And I'm Drake Bell.
Good night, guys.